Let's talk about ChatGPT. I've seen more and more videos on YouTube of people making tutorials on how to use ChatGPT to learn languages. And from what I've seen, 90% of them, probably even all of them, are garbage. And I'm going to tell you why. This doesn't mean that ChatGPT is bad. No, ChatGPT is a great tool for language learning, and I'll explain you how to use it effectively. But all those videos that you'll find, usually people who are content creators who just started making AI videos right after when ChatGPT came out because it's a trendy thing to do and whatever. They just made a list of, okay, what can I do with AI? Language learning was one of the things, and they decided to make language learning tutorials, even if they don't know anything about language learning. And it shows that they don't know anything about language learning because of what they do in those videos. See, you can tell that they haven't really used the method they're teaching. They're showing you how to do. Yeah, they haven't really done it much because it's useless. So most of them, what they'll do is they'll try to have a conversation with ChatGPT, which is a waste of time. Yeah. Okay, I'm learning Spanish. I'm trying to practice my Spanish. Can you have a conversation with me? And you start saying hello, and the ChatGPT says hello and hola, ¿qué tal? And then blah blah blah, and you have a 5 minute conversation with it. And you just running around in circles, using the limited vocabulary that you know. Yeah, because the answers you'll get really depend on whatever you type in there, and you type in knowing the vocabulary, using the vocabulary you already know, so very limited. So you reusing the same stuff over and over again. This is exactly what happens with conversation practice between beginners. Yeah, you meet other beginners, and okay, we're gonna practice Spanish, and you try to speak to each other for an hour. You basically use the same very limited vocabulary over and over again. Okay, ChatGPT will correct your grammar if you ask it to do it, but that's it. But that's really not an effective. It's not an efficient use of your time. It's a complete waste of time. You can learn more by doing many other things. So instead, what I recommend is this: use it to generate lists, content. Yeah, lists of sentences. What do you want to learn? Well, first you need to learn a lot of vocabulary. You need to learn how grammar works as well, but mostly you need to learn vocabulary if you want to understand and speak a language. ChatGPT is great to generate long vocabulary lists with example sentences about any topic. You could start with vocabulary, 80-20 rule, the most common 1,000 words in the language, for example, and then vocabulary lists for specific topics you want to get good at. You can also use it to generate long lists of sentences, example sentences, to learn all the grammar quickly. That's what ChatGPT is good for. Yeah. So stop wasting time trying to talk to it and have a conversation. Use it to generate content. And once you have the content, once you have your 1,000 sentences for grammar, 1,000 sentences for vocabulary, etc., turn them into audio and turn them into flashcards and memorize them, and then use retrieval practice, reviewing flashcards, and listen to them over and over again. And that's how you learn. Yeah, you can learn thousands of words and thousands of sentences this way, instead of just trying to have a dumb conversation with AI and talking about the same things over and over again, using the same basic vocabulary over and over again. All right. So yeah, use it correctly. This is how you use ChatGPT to learn languages effectively. Going to show you the language islands technique. Right. We're going to paste my prompt. You can get it from the description, by the way. And you can use ChatGPT to uh, generate sentences for specific interactions, situations, conversations you want to have. I recommend you adapt those sentences as much as possible. Yeah. So what we're going to do is create a situation here. So Going to in fact, let's just personalize it even more. I am 25, 35. No, okay, 25 year year old American male who is going to Cancun on a holiday. Write me a list of sentences I need to learn to use the sentences in Spanish. You have to obviously adapt the prompt for whatever language you learning and whatever your personal situation is, what the conversation is. Yeah, sentences in Spanish I'll need to learn to use there to order in bars and restaurants, interact with locals, socialize. Okay, let's try it. I normally use an S, but let's try type it American way this time. Socialize and all the basic interactions. I'll basic holiday interactions I'll need to have. Make the list as comprehensive as possible. At least 300 sentences. I like to give the 300. Let's go. I usually use 300 because it's when you create an audio file with it, it's around 10 minutes. So it's good to binge listen to without it being too much. Yeah, 1,000 sentences would already be a lot. Um, so you learn 300, and then once you learn those well, then you learn 300 more, etc. So okay, basic greetings, introductions. Hola, buenos días, buenas tardes, blah blah blah. Um, yeah, bars and restaurants. Again, maybe you don't like, what was it? Margaritas. I don't like that kind of drink. So, but I don't drink cola either. So those you can substitute with something else. Interacting with locals, etc. And it keeps going. What do we do next? Well, we copy this and paste it on a spreadsheet, and we have to separate the. Yeah, this is not ideal. We have to separate the English from the Spanish. So I would, in this case, I would tell it to write it all in Spanish only. I'll explain why. No English. Because this way, it's going to be much easier to turn into a spreadsheet, into flashcards, and into audio files. If you've got this, you have to then manually separate it all, I think, on a spreadsheet. Yeah, you can't really paste the first part in on one column and then the second part in the second column. So this way you can paste this in the first column and then use DeepL or even use ChatGPT to translate it and paste the translation right next to them. Yeah. And once you've got this, yeah, this way you can easily create spreadsheet, create an audio file with this using text to speech software, then bitch listen to it, and in the spreadsheet you'll get, yeah, it look like this but on a spreadsheet, one column Spanish, one column English, and you start reviewing it, create flashcards, retrieval practice. I highly recommend visualizing and associating the vocabulary for memorization. Quickly memorize all the vocab, and then you keep practicing retrieval practice. Yeah, so you translate from English into Spanish with flashcards, saying them aloud, and this way you can learn to say all these things in a matter of days. And this is how you use ChatGPT to learn conversational Spanish or any other language fast. Also, this you can simply copy it, and I'm going to also I'm going to move. Going to move to Warsaw, right? There is sentences in Polish I need to learn to use in order to order, blah blah blah, interact, and all the basic everyday interactions I need to have, for example. And then you get, yeah. So you just have to keep making this list for whatever you can keep track of the interactions you have on your daily life, on the things you normally talk about, and you can keep adding more and more stuff to the list. Again, I recommend you uh, change the content a little bit so that it so that the sentences you would use instead of just random AI generated sentences, which is already useful to learn a lot of vocab, but it's better to use your own sentences, yeah, so that then they'll be much more useful. Anyway, this is basically how to use ChatGPT to learn to speak fast. And now let's look at grammar with ChatGPT. Pretty easy as well. Don't create multiple choice exercises, grammar exercises, fill in the gaps, and all that stuff that is used in grammar books and language classes, because that's the nonsense we've been using all our lives. And for 99% of people, it never worked. Yeah. Language classes and language grammar books and all that are a massive waste of time. So instead, what we'll do is, can you list all, let's say, German? No. Uh, yeah, let's say German. Can you list all German grammar to me? Every single grammar point in the language. Just a list of. By the way, I've got other ways to do this as well, but this is one of them. I'll show you the other ones as well. And it will start listing things. Ignore all these names, yeah? We'll just use them, but without having to learn them. What we'll do instead is paste the next part. Can you give me 20? Actually, let's do 100. Example sentences of, and there you go. Then you don't need to learn gender, word formation, negation, direct and indirect. I used to hate all this in school. I still don't like it. It's completely unnecessary that you learn all these terms. Instead, what you should do is take the list, turn them into flashcards. Yeah, put them in a spreadsheet, translate them, turn them into audio files. So you get, yeah, all these German sentences that you can listen to. You can translate from English into German. Then you check, okay, say it right, say it wrong, and you do it with the next one. You do it with the next one. Yeah, this is compound now. Yeah, you see, if it's doing this stuff, if it's doing this stuff, just get rid of the. Yeah, this is much better, much more practical, and you get all these sentences. And then you learn the sentences, translate them, create audio files, apply all the usual rules. Yeah, memorization with mnemonic associations, retrieval practice with flashcards, mass listening. What's next? Well, we'll come. We did point number one. Okay, then we'll take this, come back here, and we'll do the same thing for the second one. Again, no need to learn the definite, indefinite, blah blah blah. Just translate them and learn them with translation. Yeah, that way it'll be much easier. You don't need to learn the all these terms. I never did. Definite. Okay, this is the man. This is a man. Yeah. Is it really important that you know the definite, indefinite? No. Just this is the. This is a. That's it. Difference is that in German there are a lot of different variations of it instead of just being the or a an like in English. Um, and this is no. Kein man is no man is. And then again, you take these, create audio files, listen to them, create flashcards with the translation, translate from English into German, and you should use mnemonic associations as well, and you add them to the list, and then you come back here. Don't worry, I won't do all of them, but just for you to get an idea. It's okay. We did articles. We did number. Don't even read all this stuff. Just look at the numbers and that's it. Okay, we did number two. We did the number three, and this is already. Look at all this stuff. Like this looks really complicated, and I'm sure some linguists and some language teacher in the comment sections right now is seething because of the fact that I don't like these terms. But it's just for most people, if you're not into linguistics, if you just want to learn the language, you don't need to learn this stuff. Just paste it here, give me examples, translate examples, listen to the examples, you learn. Yeah, so this pronouns. Yeah, I'm tired, you're friendly, he is strong, she's beautiful, it's called blah blah blah. You get the translation, you flashcards again, same thing. Apply the same exact formula over and over again until you know all points. Yeah, you keep adding them, and you with flashcards you keep reviewing the old ones and you learn the new ones. Keep doing them with all of them until you know all the grammar, and that's it. All right, this next one is going to be about verb conjugations, which are extremely simple in English but much more complex in many other languages, which means that for English speakers, they're pretty hard to remember. It's a lot to learn when you're learning Spanish, for example. So, what we'll do is use this prompt. We'll use the 10 most common verbs over and over again to learn all the conjugations well first, and then we'll learn. Uh, Eventually, we'll learn hundreds and then thousands of verbs, yeah, and vocab in general. But we'll use the most common ones, 80-20 rule, because this will show up the most. We'll use these over and over again in many different variations to learn the all the conjugations well, and then we'll slowly increase the amount of verbs we're using in more variations. Yeah, so we'll do hundreds of examples with the most common 10, and then 10 examples with the most common 100, and then 2 or 3 examples with the most common 1000, let's say. Okay, let's go. It's possible that when you do this, sometimes the ChatGPT will be like, "Oh, that's a lot. Let me show you just 50 of them." If it doesn't, just uh, tell it to continue and that's it. Yeah. So ser. Ser y estar are quite complicated to understand for uh, English speakers. We can also use another prompt to learn those. But yeah, ser to be basically permanent. To be estar is more like situational or occasion. But yeah, yo soy estudiante, tú eres, él es profesor, nosotros somos blah 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 blah. Blah. It keeps going, and then you see this is I've been. This is you are being. You would have been, or you would be. Uh, this is hard to translate. This is that I be your friend. They will be very famous or well known. He will be a leader. You were. My partner, he was the leader. They're obsessed with the leader here. Yeah, continue generating. But you see, you get, and I specifically said A1. So this is basic. Then there are a lot of like, you would have been and all that stuff. That comes later with another prompt. But this is good for just learning basic conjugations. Ellos, tú, yo, ella, nosotros, vosotros, and over again. Different tenses, all the basic past, present, future, and some conditionals. And and that's it. Then you learn this exactly the same as everything else. Create audio file, flashcards, memorize with associations, and just drill, drill, drill until you learn them well. After learning the most common 10 verbs in many different forms, lots of different conjugations, past, present, future tenses, different I, you, us, them, blah, blah, blah. Once you know more or less how all conjugations work, then what we'll do is expand our knowledge. Yeah, we've done 10 verbs, the 10 most common verbs, 100 times each in 100 different variations each. Now we'll do the opposite, 100 most common verbs in um, Spanish. Again, let's use Spanish. uh, 10 example sentences each. So with this, we'll get less variety. I don't know. Yeah, sometimes it does that. If it does this, just click to continue. But yeah, these are the verbs. So yeah, produce, realizar, fumar. Yeah, this is if you know 100 verbs and you can conjugate them pretty well. That's already you can already speak quite a lot. So to be, and then if it does this, sometimes it does this, and that's it. Yeah, from I'm a student to they would have been champions. Yeah, this is already a little bit more complicated, but you get an idea of all the grammar. Again, do this after the 10 most common ones 100 times each, because that will give you a much better understanding of how conjugations work. Because it'll be 100 variations of the same exact verb, so you know exactly how that verb's conjugated. And once you know 10 of them really well in 100 different variations each, you will have a very good understanding of by simple pattern recognition, you'll have a very good understanding of how conjugations work in general, and you'll do much better at applying the same patterns, using the same patterns. Okay, continue. Yeah, you'll have to do this a lot. Even and this is the premium version. Even, but again, you just have to tell it to continue and then copy and paste them and create spreadsheets, flashcards, etc., audio files with them, and you keep doing this until you have your 1,000 sentences with 100 verbs 10 times conjugated each. Is this all the language? No, but it will give you a very good understanding of how conjugations work. And also, you learn because you see in each one 10 times, you learn the verbs really well as well. Because if to follow is seguir and you see you you review 10 sentences in a row with seguir in them, by the time you get here, like after a few days, you'll remember the verb. After one day if you use mnemonic associations. So yeah, this is how you learn verbs fast and conjugations. All right, this one is really simple but really really useful. Just have to use this prompt. Write a list of the 100 most common adjectives in uh, whatever Romanian. Each one with an example sentence next to it. You can add this one. This no English explanations needed, because sometimes it gets confused and it starts giving you translations and all that, and you don't need that for now. Yeah, if you're going to turn them into a spreadsheet, and you should, you can then easily create a second column using translator. It's going to be much easier if you don't have the English explanations and translation next to it. So yeah, why the 100 most common adjectives? Because adjectives used to describe things, and they're extremely useful in conversation. Three types of words that are super useful are nouns, obviously, verbs, and adjectives. And if you don't know a single word of Romanian, this is big, this is small, this is beautiful, etc. Uh, yeah, you get mare, casa mea este foarte mare. Mic, am un câine mic. Frumos, este un oraș frumos. Urât, această câine este urâtă. And you have the adjective, yeah, big, and then my house is very big. Small, I've got a small dog, although dog small, but um, you don't need to understand this. Just use a translator and paste the translation in the second column. Um, and then you start, yeah, associations with this. Yeah, something mare. For me, mar is sea in Spanish, so it was very easy to big, sea, easy to visualize. Mic is, I mean, someone called Mic or Mike you could use. I just visualize a really small microphone. Uh, Bun is good. Burger bun, although from Spanish because it's bueno, it's so similar that it was easy. But yeah, you use associations to learn this, and then you review the whole thing with flashcards, and you binge listen to it after creating audio files. And you learn, easily learn, see, nervous, friendly, unpolite, sincere, lying, generous. And if you learn 100 of these, you can describe a lot of stuff. And also, don't forget you're learning complete sentences with this. So you learning a lot of practical sentences. Maybe you're not going to say that, what was it, the lying politician there. I've seen I've seen it somewhere. When that's everywhere, but I think Romania is especially. Anyway, I mean, it's not like it's much better in Spain, to be honest. But yeah, that's how you that's how you learn adjectives fast with ChatGPT. Later, we'll expand this to 1,000 and even more. Vocabulary is extremely important in language learning. Yeah, I always say it. I know I repeat myself, but people just don't listen. And the reality is that if you don't know the words, it doesn't matter how good you've learned the grammar, how much you talk to people, and how many conversations you try to have, or small talk, and how good you feel. And if you don't have the grammar, you won't understand complex language, and you won't be able to have serious conversations or any kind of meaningful conversation, like outside having like really basic interactions like ordering stuff and things like that. So you need a lot of words. This is the best way. We use this prompt, write a list of the 1,000 most common nouns. 1,000 are enough. They're not enough to understand everything, but they're enough to, because of the 80-20 rule, this is enough to understand. Maybe not 80%, but let's say at least 50, probably more than that. especially because they'll come with an example sentence, which means you learn even more words and also a lot of vocab with it. Yeah. So as always, we stop there. Stop right there. Can you guess what the problem is? Yeah. If you don't understand this without the translation, it doesn't matter. Yeah, because we'll use a translator later. We'll simply go into paste this on a spreadsheet and then translate it with any kind of translator. We could even use ChatGPT to translate it, but we need to have them in different columns because otherwise it's going to be impossible to create an audio file to listen to them and repeat. Yeah, and once you've memorized the first, yeah, the word, not the whole sentence. Yeah, the sentence is there to provide context and to make it easier to review the word and to remember it in context. But first, memorize it with associations. After that, you can create audio files, listen to it over and over again. Um, you can listen to the playlists I've got with vocab and verbs and all that. It's always word, example sentence, word, example sentence. If you've memorized the word with associations, if you listen to it over and over, it will be very easy to remember. And also use flashcards with it. Again, to be able to download it as flashcards, you need to have it in two columns. Yeah, column one, uh, target language; column two, your own language. Although you should reverse it later so that you translate from your native language or English into the target language, because that's when the real thinking is happening. That's when you're really learning. You're making mistakes, you get an instant feedback over and over again. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Get ok, je vous recommande d'utiliser une méthode systématique. Yeah, continue. And if it keeps stopping, just keep telling it to continue until you get your 1000 words with example sentences. You could keep this going until you get 10,000. If you are learning a language with complicated grammar and lots of cases and conjugations, this is a prompt you need. This part you should obviously change it. So if you're learning something like uh, Russian with cases, then let's use cases. If it's something like Spanish, then let's use conjugations. Try all three, see how it works. But let's do it with cases this time. So give me a short list of all the cases in Russian. Yeah, let's do Russian. Um, let's use my native Basque as an example as well for a very simple reason. Most of you can't read. You don't understand Basque either, obviously, but you at least you can read it. But it says, well, Cyrillic, you can't read it because I want to prove a point. Russian cases, okay. Yeah, Basque is quite complicated. I never heard of this, a lot of this, by the way. I know that dative or dative, whatever it's called, and genitive. But, okay, so you get all this, and the difference is I won't be able to really show much of Russian because yeah, if you can't read Cyrillic, right? Uh, so this is so you this is the second part, right? The list of 20 example sentences for each one of them, and there you go. I'm going to take this and redo it again. In order to make flashcards, I would tell ChatGPT to get rid of this. Yeah, nominative, genitive, and you get endless Let's redo it. 20 example sentences with this, so that you see the difference much more clearly. So this is who does what. Uh, yeah, the woman has come. Yeah, I have no idea what these things mean. Yeah, this is one. You see, this one. They all in on this list, or they all end with a K. It's a big. Uh, this is challenging for Basque people who are learning Basque as a second language, because it's sometimes it's a K in the end of gizonak. Yeah, almost drunk the wine. Emakume karda dandu. There's a K here, but then if you come, yeah, uh, emakume etorri da. Yeah, she's come. Gizonak kalean dago. The man is in the street. Here they don't have Ks. Here they have Ks. This kind of lists are really useful to learn all these endings. Yeah, all the cases. This is to whom? I've given the book to the woman. Emakume ari, ume ei. This is always a or ari. Yeah, amari, kasle, next kachari. Next one is aren or en. This is someone's. Yeah, the cover of the book. Yeah, liburu aren. Oh, gizonaren etxea, the house of the man, or the man's house. So you, after learning 20 of these, you'll remember that the n or aren is the okay someone's. And that this is for someone. What I give for the woman. Emakume erantzatu pare erosi du. Yeah, this ending. So you see the patterns. You learn the grammar by pattern. It's the same here with Russian, except well, this is if you don't understand Cyrillic, I guess you still can you still can see patterns, right? There's a lot of R's here. Like dom is house, but blisko od doma, the A is close to the house in this case. Or A or ya in this case. This depends on if it's masculine and feminine. Sometimes you can do this, and then you can take this and ask ChatGPT to give you 100, 300 more examples of one specific. Okay, let's learn dative case. Again, I always try to avoid these terms, but it's good to just, in order to give ChatGPT instructions, it's good for that. But this is how you learn languages with complicated grammar, which you can see Russian is complicated, and this is even more complicated. Not for me because I learned it as a native, but um, native speakers really struggle with this. Non-native speakers learning. Sorry. And finally, this is another prompt you can use to massively increase your vocabulary in the language that you learn. This is the prompt. Write a list of the 1,000 most common nouns in the language, in not language. So we switch to, let's say, Spanish there, French, or whatever you're learning. And instead of nouns, you could also use adjectives or verbs, and each one with up to 5 synonyms next to it. So we used a 1,000 most common nouns list already with an example sentence next to it. Now instead, what we'll do is 5 synonyms. And the difference is that without, if it starts acting up with this stuff, just tell it to continue. Um, so the difference here is that it's harder to remember without an example sentence, but we can learn them exactly the same way. I recommend doing the example sentence once first, because then you'll know this pretty well, the first word, and probably a lot of the following the synonyms of. They're not exactly synonyms, some of them. They're similar words, but not exactly the same. But What I recommend is same approach. Create audio files, create a spreadsheet, translations, and you memorize the words, and then you put them in flashcards, and you get the English, and you try to remember. So yeah, this is again, it's hard to get exact translations for everything, but yeah, house, home, uh, again, so home, your residence, again, residence. Yeah, I can't really think. It's hard, but the point is, you should do Spanish to English first, and then English to Spanish with flashcards. So you have to retrieve all this. So eventually, quite fast actually, if you do it this way, you learn all of them. Doesn't mean that all of them will be very useful in conversation. Most of them probably won't, but they'll be very useful in order to understand more complex language. And also, it'd be helpful for you to sound a little bit more eloquent in the language instead of using the same like 50 words over and over again, like a lot of people do. Yeah, you need a lot of vocab if you want to sound like if you want your Spanish or your French or whatever language you're learning, if you want to sound good instead of just really basic, you need vocab and also to understand. So I highly recommend. Again, if it does this, just tell it to continue. Get more. See, child, and then you have all of this are quite. Maybe not this one, but Creole. Yeah, depends on the. This is more formal. This is old school. This is quite informal. Yeah, papa, progenitor, patriarca. Yeah, I guess if you're the head of a gypsy family, they use that with you. But for the most part, it's not all that common. But yeah, you get the idea. You learn lots of words with this flashcards and retrieval practice, and that's it. This will be because if you want to learn language well, and if you want to read the press, and you want to read books, and you want to understand podcasts and shows, and you want to have deep, meaningful conversations about interesting topics, you need that way more than a few hundred words. That's good for survival. Yeah, this you need this for fluency, or even proficiency in the language. This is how you learn lots and lots of vocab. Obviously, combining it with massive amounts of listening to native speaker content. Yeah.